Right, welcome to the Success and Happiness podcast. So I've got Linda and Craig with me tonight, with me today, who are both natural success coaches, very successful natural success coaches. Actually, been selected as what are you, the best? I can't remember what they call
We'll
it
just
now.
go with that. We're just the best.
Coaches of the year.
That's the best.
That's the word I was looking for. The best of the best.
We did take out Coach of the Year, like the two of us together as co-winners in 2021. So yeah, that was cool. That was fun.
Excellent. Okay, great stuff. So Linda's been a coach and an educator for many years, and with many of us, she's found the work with William Whitecloud, and that's really changed everything for her, which I think has changed a lot for a lot of us. She was a chiropractor for 25 years, which is quite a long time. And I'm trying to say this word, I've been trying to practice this word, kinesiologist before that.
Yes.
And a medical researcher.
Well done.
I had to Google that. You've been a business owner for over 30 years, and you've got three kids who are all now amazing adults. And Craig's her incredible man who lights her up. No pressure, Craig. They both love sailing and windsurfing and being outdoors and four-wheel driving and camping, and love traveling anywhere you can possibly think of. And love being around people creating their lives and magical lives. And you've also run some hot yoga studios together and been running retreats and coaching for the last 4 or 5 years.
Yeah.
So Craig, you started life as an electrician and have adapted into many different vocations over the years. I'm guessing looking for your genius.
That's it, yeah.
And you also enjoy paragliding and photography. I also love photography. And Craig's got 2 kids, boys 13 and 16. And you've been doing William's work for over 12 years. So yeah, you started just before you met Linda, didn't you then?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, and you kind of joke that that's what you created, but yeah, I think that's what you did, because I know that's what I created.
Yeah, it is true. We joke, but it is true.
It is true. Yeah.
It is true. Yeah. And you coach men predominantly.
Well, it's a part of definitely of the coaching that I do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you run an online course as well, which is currently free, and I'll share that link for you. I'll share that link in the show notes. I am intrigued to ask about what performance pet foods is.
It's a step.
It's a step. It's one of the many journeys I had in so many different iterations in jobs and different working scenarios, sort of thing. So that was a factory job, working producing pet food and packaging that and working in logistics with that and all that sort of thing. So it was just another.
But even that job came about by magic too, wasn't it?
Yeah.
It came about through a guy that we met through our yoga studio and then it just fell into place with different things that were, there were requirements and demands, and that came about by magic as well, didn't it?
Yeah, definitely.
And then it ended by magic.
Pet food can only take you so far.
That's right.
So as we talk about relationships today, and I've got my beautiful partner here, Emma, and like I said, she's my most magical creation, and you've done a bit of William's work, but you've done the Create Your Destiny part of it.
Yeah.
So I just want to really talk about, I guess for me, the big thing for me was what William helped me to do was open your heart. That was like the biggest change to me, and that, I guess, allowed me to feel loved more than anything, and that was a big game changer for me. So what was it for you, and how did you guys was William's work like the catalyst that changed relationships?
Yeah, definitely. Do you want to
Big
go
time.
first? You go
Big
first.
Yeah, it totally was, because for me it was because along with coming out of of my trade, and then going in and out of jobs for years, sort of thing. That was the run of the mill for me. It was, short periods in jobs, moving to the next one, hoping that was going to, be somehow better or whatever. But it was no different when it came to relationships too. Same deal, it was like in and out of relationships, thinking, like telling myself that the problem was, the relationship or the other person. Generally, it was never me, and just sort of moving on all the time, but then realizing that I didn't realize until I did William's work that actually I was running patterns. It was things that were happening over and over again. I might have been in a different relationship with another different person, but the results kept on being very much the same, and so when I did William's work, it's sort of the penny dropped and it fell into place. It was like, this is what's going on here. Okay. And I have a responsibility in these, things, in these outcomes as well. It's not, everything and everybody else's fault or whatever. That's that, I've been playing the default mode of awareness. I've been sort of playing from that limited aspect of myself and had no conscious awareness around the dynamics that were involved there. But the results that I kept on seeing in relationships were undeniably the same, as different versions of the same thing. So after doing William's work, I think for me, one of the key things that changed with regard to the relationship, my relationship from there on, and really that was my relationship with Linda, was the way the relationship came about was a very conscious choosing. It was a conscious awareness around what would I really love? What would I love by way of the qualities that I'd love to experience in the relationship? And once I established that, once I knew what was true for me there, then I became sort of conscious about choosing that and anchoring into that, regularly. And it wasn't an overnight thing, but man, it came together magically. Our relationship came together magically, and the quality of the relationship was of a caliber that was completely different to anything I'd experienced before, and it continues to deepen. It seems strange that it could do that, but our relationship just continues to deepen. It doesn't seem to have any kind of limitation to it, which is beautiful. It's been an amazing experience.
Yeah, and you had a coach back then too that was helping you with that as well. Yeah. So yeah. And mine was a little different because I actually had done, a fair amount of coaching before. I was actually coaching people in business because I had a very successful practice, from a young age and that sort of thing. And so I'd gone the Tony Robbins route and all that sort of thing. And I got a lot out of those things from that perspective, but it was very different orientation to how William shows us. There's a big difference between going through programs that are very much about, how's your state, what's your identity, change your identity, change this about you and all that sort of thing, and then learning that actually none of that really matters other than acknowledging that there's parts of you that behave in certain ways, and you have also greatness, you have a heart, and you have something that to align to that's actually your truth, and that's the only thing you need to focus on, but you don't need to worry about all the other stuff. So in a weird and wonderful way, I'd gone through a very messy divorce. So there was that going on, and then I went into another relationship which I had for about 4 years, but I was the classic codependent. Like, it was like, okay, that one's over, all right, now as calmly and as quickly as I possibly can, who's the next person I can latch on to and say, you're my partner and you can help me raise my kids and all that sort of thing. And so we had this relationship, and then I thought it was a great relationship. This guy was so much calmer than the ex-husband, all these things going on. And then one day he turns up after being out with his mates all night and then says, I'm leaving and I'm not coming back. And that was like out of the blue. And it was like, oh my God, you know? And so I went through the trauma of all of that and everything. Now that was it was a great monumental step, because it made me stop and go, well, you know, things have to be different. And I took an 18-month sabbatical, you know, purposefully went, I am not going to go in a relationship for 18 months. And it was hard because my codependent side wanted to, no, let's jump in. There's got to be someone out there that'll love me, you know, and go from there. But I found a sense of purpose in what I was doing vocationally, even though that wasn't an ideal situation either at the time. But I still had something that I went, yeah, I can really get myself involved with this. And that was actually the first hot yoga studio that I opened with another business partner. And I really started to examine coming at it from a different way, and I just started sort of stumbling across work like Abraham Hicks and other things, where it became more about less about my identity and who I was and becoming a better person, and more about the thing that I would love. And I constructed a list of attributes of a relationship that I wanted to create. And so I had that list, and Craig was creating from his end. So, and when he started coming to the hot yoga studio, I used to think, wow, he's pretty hot. And then I just go, no, he'll be married. One day he rocks in with 2 little kids, like 1 and 3-year-old or whatever it was. And I'm like, oh, he's definitely married. Okay, forget about it. All right, keep on with your you know, focus and
your sabbatical.
My sabbatical. And yeah, so we'll just keep on that path. But it turned out he wasn't actually with their mum anymore, and he was just toddling them along for something or other. So anyway, but yeah, we got together while Craig was actually in one of William's live events in Byron Bay. He invited me down for a date. I had to drive 2.5 hours, so there must have been some pull to it.
Gosh, that's
down for dinner and then back the next day for work. So it was, you know, you were definitely working with the tension on that night, I'm sure.
I was focused.
So yeah, long story short, but yeah, in terms of from there, yeah, absolutely a complete game changer. And you know, I think one of the big things is not just being more open and being true for your heart, but also you're taking responsibility for those aspects of yourself that, you know, would you rather get in there and try and control and manipulate and say, you're doing this to me, blah blah blah. It's actually, no, I'm doing this to me. You know, what's being activated in me that I now need to look at. And as I look at it, and I look at it from above, and I look at it from a higher perspective, it's really easy just to let that shit go. Whereas in the past, would have been taking that to the relationship and go, look, you're doing this wrong. You need to get this between your thick skull that you're not doing it right, and yeah, I'm not happy about it, and so on. So, but that's just not in our awareness these days, you know. And we're still human. Things will sometimes come up. I have to say it's a pretty rare day, but when it does, we both know that it's our responsibility. And we're the only ones that can do that work. So, and just on that a little bit, we also have an agreement not to have unsolicited coaching, because that is a oh, there's some freezing going on. I hope you can see.
No, I'm still.
Oh, good. You can edit that bit out. So, because both of us being coaches, it's really easy to slip into, okay, so what are you making that mean about you? You know,
yeah, slip into coach mode.
Yeah, slip into coach mode, because you can see they're under tension, and you want, and it just became really obvious that actually, unless we're asking for that, that's not really an appropriate thing to do. So we're best off to you know, if I need a hand, I'll say, hey, Craig, can we do a such and such process, or anything else you think is more appropriate to address that, or vice versa, rather than, oh look, you've got tension, let me sort you out. I think we need a genius alignment process right now. Like, you need the big guns.
Grab a pen.
And that sort of thing. So, but no, and as you said, it's an ever evolving thing. I mean, just before we got on the podcast, we were out on the back deck just cooling down a bit, and playing silly miming games, you know, with each other. And you know, it's just fun, you know. It's just fun, lots of laughter and fun and connection and that sort of thing.
Yeah, I think in society these days, a lot of relationships start with, you know, you see someone and go, oh, they're really hot, and then, you know, you jump into bed together, and then there's a pregnancy, and then that's your life. And I think there's probably a lot of like resentment how that starts, because, you know, you just, you know, met somebody and you know, just kind of wanted some fun or whatever you want to call it, and we never really think about a relationship, and then you kind of almost tricked into a relationship because, you know, or you fall into it. And I think a lot of relationships as well, they just start with, yeah, you're hot, and then they jump into bed, and then that's the way it goes. And then you kind of work out the rest of it along the way, if you can, or depending on how strong your identities are. But certainly having that intention of choosing somebody and choosing them as a person, rather than a lover kind of thing, you know, choosing them as an actual person first, and liking them as a person, and what, you know, their beliefs and what they stand for. I think that makes a huge difference in going into a relationship.
Yeah, I mean, the one of the things is that for me was really important was that I need to kind of show up in my truth, you know, to the relationship sort of thing, and not need something from the relationship. So my happiness is my responsibility. And so when I take that responsibility, it frees Linda and it frees our relationship to just be its fullest potential. It's not sort of overlaid with this crazy responsibility that it's somehow got to serve me in some way, you know. It's as I take more of that responsibility myself, it means that I show up in the relationship, you know, in my truth, and that gives us the opportunity, and we both do, and it gives us the opportunity to share an experience of life together, you know. And but it's kind of, we're not in that codependent scenario, and we're not in that kind of black magician one controlling the victim and vice versa sort of scenario, and that sort of thing's not playing out. So it does allow the relationship to kind of be, you know, to unfold magically and naturally, organically, you know, sort of thing, without the limitation on it, which is really cool.
Yeah, I like, on that theme, you know, what I love about that is it's almost like I've got this extra set of eyes and perspective that I can view the world through. So I've got my center. I know who I am and how I'm looking at the world. And with Craig there beside me, and he's looking at something, and he's got that, you know, his masculine energy, and he sees things in a different way. And as we communicate and talk about it and we paint a picture, it becomes a more complete picture than I would have seen on my own. And I love that, you know, the fact that I get to have the world augmented by you, you know, but as though that other set of eyes and that other set of feelings and experiences of, you know, we could just be looking at a landscape, and that can be a different thing just because of how you're seeing it, how I'm seeing it, and we bring it together and we paint a fuller picture. And yeah. And so life can be like that, where we augment and really bring the other perspectives in.
Yeah, because you see everything through your own perspective, and I've become a lot more aware of that, you know, there's, and I guess maybe even certain patterns and that sort of thing. It's like, well, this is my perception, because I know that, you know, that other people will have a different perception. You know, it might be like, you know, in our business, we work with lots of suppliers, and we have quite a strained relationship with a lot of them. But I know that there's other companies they're working with which have a good relationship with them. So I know it's my perception, and you can't go, oh well, they're really rubbish, because it's just a different perception. And it's that's something that I'm trying to I guess be aware of or try and work through. But awareness is I think the awareness is the biggest thing amongst of anything, aware of how you're being, of, you know, just awareness of what you're doing, and I think of being aware of other people and seeing more than, you know, it's a bit like someone cuts you up on the road, and you go, well, and you just kind of swear at them and everything else. But, you know, they might not be aware of you completely, because you make up stories all the time. You go, oh, well, they've, you know, deliberately cut me off because I'm not good enough, or, you know, whatever. So you make up these stories, and yeah, they're dealing with their own, whatever they're dealing with, or, you know, they're in their own world, and, yeah, anything could be going on for them, and they're just trying to get from A to B as quickly as possible, or they're just unaware, or whatever it might be, but it's not personal.
Yeah. It's really interesting, because the perspective thing, you know, it was easy for me, and this is obviously the carryover from childhood, when you grow up with the perspective on how you're meant to be appearing to your parents, you know, in a certain way. And, you know, so I would always have this pre-assessment of how things were going to be. So if, you know, if my dad was going through something in life or whatever, it'd be like, oh, well, when I'm at home, I'll have to walk over eggshells, or, you know, mum will expect that I'll be there to have a conversation. And, you know, this is all stuff I'm making up as a kid.
Yeah,
And just go, oh, that's the way that it is, right? And so we do that, and we transfer it onto our partners when we come into a relationship. It's like, oh, I think he's in a mood. I'm going to have to walk on eggshells. And I certainly did that with my first marriage, right? It was just like, oh, there's going to be a mood there. But, you know, what I've learned to recognize is that when I catch myself in that, oh, it's going to be like this, it's like, actually, I don't know that. And what I'm going to do is shift into this person I'm about to interact with, whether it's Craig or it's somebody else. It's like, this person has a heart, you know, and actually they want what I want. So I'm going to communicate to that part of them that we're all going for the same thing. And so rather than get into this, oh, you know, he's going to be really cranky because da-da-da, it's like, oh, no, actually, he's got a heart, and I'll speak to that part of him. And that's one of the reasons why we don't really have a lot of, you know, friction, because it's like we're, rather than framing up for the threat, framing up for the bigness, the greatness. Yeah.
We had that a lot. Well, I had that a lot with you, because I always, because not my last relationship, but my relationship before that, that person was always very moody, and I would always say to you, "Were you in a mood?" And then I'd say it so much that you'd become in a mood. You know, I just created that situation, and I just made that up because you weren't in a mood.
Yeah,
you were just a different person. But I just thought, oh, you're like that person. That, you know, I put everyone in boxes as like 10 sorts of people. You're like that person. But the reality is, we just really learned to communicate a lot through that, didn't we? Which has been really key for us, hasn't it?
and I think as well, like, because I've suffered through depression my whole life, basically. In fact, literally until William's work, and it all comes down to powerlessness and perceived powerlessness. And yeah, like I probably still go into moods, but I don't last very long. And I think that was the thing before in your previous relationship, that it would go on for days.
Well, yeah, previous, because that person suffered with depression a lot, and so in my head I was like, oh, Colin's got depression. I can't cope with that again.
He's going to be depressed for 3 years.
Yeah. You made that up, which then made you worse. And but we got through that because we, you know, we wanted it to work. We wanted to communicate, you know.
Yeah, it's just that whole communication thing, isn't it?
Yeah, and taking responsibility again from where you're coming from and what you're perceiving before you even enter into the dialogue, you know, because it's your energy showing up. And as energetic beings, we're also bringing that to the you know, the space between, and then that influences the outcome that you're going to be facing, you know. So it's an important thing.
Yeah. There's also that aspect in relationships, I think, that a lot of women, their instinct is to mother their partner, and I feel that with us, because it's very equal, the relationship is very equal, and that really makes a big difference. Do you find that?
Oh, well, definitely. But see, I think I'm not that much of a nurturer.
Not probably.
No risk.
It's not that bad. Like, if you really need to, I help you out. But no, it's and look, I had kids. I love my kids. We have great relationship. I was very much a free range parent. Like, you want to climb the tree? Awesome, go climb a tree, but don't push your brother out this time. You know, those sorts of things. You know? And if they fall out or whatever, it's like, oh, okay, well, let's patch you back up again so you can go out and play again. Things like that. So I guess that's not really my thing, is it? I mean, I'm loving and nurturing in my own way. In your own way. I'm not a panderer. And yeah.
But have you found that in other relationships, Craig? Have you've been mothered or?
Oh, big time. But you know, again, in several relationships. But what I now know is that what I can see is that my dysfunction was playing out. That's all that was going on with that mothering, was that I was creating that. You know, I was looking for a mother in my relationships. I was looking to be mothered, and again, because I wasn't conscious about what my drivers were, what's running the show here. You know, there's all this unconscious need for mothering in the relationships, which was one of the key reasons why they were so problematic, because they were a relationship. They weren't about a mother-son relationship, but I was making them that way without knowing that I was doing it, and to detrimental effect. These were lovely people, but we were both in our dysfunction. We had no idea that we were. So we were playing patterns, and that was definitely one of mine. Was I've got to be mothered here, because I'm not allowed to be capable in my life.
Yeah.
So and that's sort of stemming from mum. When I was a kid, I sort of took on this belief that I'm not allowed to be capable. So I was always looking for approval from my partner, and needing appreciation, needing that sort of thing out of the relationship from them. And so it was beautifully liberating to come to realize that, well, that's not going to, play out real well. So, and also that I'm not a victim to that dysfunction. It's a part of me. It's something I created as a kid, and I'm not even looking to get rid of it. It'd be impossible to get rid of it anyway, but that I can, come from a higher perspective than that in my life, and I can create, beautiful relationships and with others, in our relationship with other people as well, and just, it all. And so I've got the power in relation to that. And as long as I don't hand that over to my dysfunction, then I get to choose, consciously.
Yeah, and I just keep seeing you as a super powerful creator. So it's like, okay, you might be in your shit right now, but no, you'll work it out. You'll get it sorted.
Yeah, because
we're human. We're not looking to be perfect or whatever, because we're human. So we do have all those human traits, and that's a part of what's so amazing about life. We get to have an experience as human beings, So, but we don't want to be ruled by our humanness. We want to use our humanness to have the experience, sort of thing, but from a conscious position, and then you can have some fun.
And I think what changes is that, like when you're in your shit, like you say, which is very apt, is it's only temporary. It's always temporary. It's not permanent. Whereas probably before it was, it was kind of permanent, or might last for days, or just it kind of escalates, doesn't it?
Yeah, it escalates until one of the many go-to strategies, and usually manipulation. If that didn't work, arguments. If that didn't work, eventually withdraw and withdraw my love, until such times as they saw the light, to some degree at least, and then we were good again. Sort of thing. It's just not happy days.
Until they saw your point of view.
Yeah, that's right. And then it's fine.
Totally exhausting though, isn't it? Because I've had a lot of relationships like Colin, and in your mind you think, oh, that's really great, but I used to sleep a lot, and that's because I didn't notice that until I met you. I'd always, in previous relationships, I think, oh, okay, I've got some time, I'll just go and have a snooze, but that's because I was emotionally really tired all the time, and I didn't realise what was going on in my subconscious. And you sort of pointed that out to me, didn't you? And I definitely don't sleep as much now.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we've got our strategies, don't we?
Yeah,
pretty clever.
They're draining,
and they seem very justified.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. We can always justify it. So the other thing about, because you mentioned about mothering, or sorry, I mentioned about mothering, but I strongly feel like in Western society, the one thing we don't have is this progression from boy to man that we have in African societies, and a lot of other societies. I'm guessing probably Aboriginals as well, and that sort of thing, and certainly in America, I don't know what the PC word to say is these days, but it's that progression that they go from, there's an event, whether they have to kill a big animal, or they have to, I saw something on the other day where they had to ride a bull, and a lot of them got injured, but it was quite and they have to face their fear, or if they go off for 3 days in the jungle by themselves, and there's a specific event where they go, right, you are now a man, and now you have responsibilities, and now you you know, now you have to be a father and do all these things.
Provide for your family.
Yeah, and you know, provide for your family and protect your family. But in Western cultures, we don't have that clearly defined period, or, you know, clearly defined event. Do you find that, I guess, more with Craig? I don't know if it's more with
It's a man thing,
men
I
or women as well, but yeah, it's definitely a man problem, I think.
Yeah, I think you know, a lot of cultures have those sorts of rites of passage type processes for men and women, you know, and they're obviously they're different, but they're designed to take a person from adolescence, where they're kind of in their unconscious state, you know, and they're being run by their thoughts and feelings, and they're just a reactive being, and that's that. But it's to take them from that, or my understanding is to take them from that state into into manhood, and that meaning that they become aware of their their ego, you know, they become aware of the truth of who they are and their position in society, like you say, you know, that they have responsibility, but along with it, they have power too, and they're powerful beings, you know, so they come to see the truth, and those processes are kind of, they have wisdom. They come from, you know, they date back, and they've been held that way for so long, with that in mind, to end up with, you know, well-balanced adults who are now adults. But what happens without the process, if left to our own kind of unconscious devices and left to essentially be living in autopilot all the time, our default mode will always be to reference our limiting belief structure in relation to every aspect of our life, our decisions we make, the relationships we go into, how we show up in those relationships, you know. So we're in default mode. And I agree. I think that without a process, a formalized process that takes, kids to being adults, sort of thing, or to being a man or a woman, and recognizing what's really going on, then yeah, we can. There's got to be some sort of information that says, hold on, that's an illusion. You know, you've established that illusion back when you're a kid, and that's what that is. That's what's going on there. But here, this is what it is to step into your truth and be the truth of who you really are. This is who you really are, you know, and what's really true for you. There's got to be something, whatever that process is. If it's there, you know, default mode gets to win. So yeah,
I mean, just look at how many people come through CYD and realize there's two aspects to themselves, and they're like, holy shit, I sort of knew that, but now I see it. It's so clear as day. And I've been running on the one track, and I've actually completely lost real touch with this other one, with the greatness, the internal. And that's the thing for me, that when I look at rites of passage, it's about coming from that childish, externally referenced egoic vehicle into, okay, I've still got the ego, but I'm internally referencing from a higher source. That's my primary mode of awareness, rather than, what's going on around me. But we've got, you know, adults, doesn't matter what age, in most of our society, that are running around still looking for external validation and external referencing on how they should be in the world. And we've completely missed the boat, because all we do at the age of 18 is take them down the pub and give them their first beer and a set of car keys. I mean, just totally dysfunctional. You've made it. Well done.
Goodbye.
Yeah, onward and upward. Good luck.
Yeah. There's definitely that, and I think as well, you know, because I used to think maybe a woman having a child maybe takes them from girl to woman, but I don't think that's it needs something more than that. It's still not, because you get, you know, and again, I can refer to older men, but you know, you'll get someone who's like 65 and they're acting like a child because they've never grown up, basically.
Yeah, well, I think it's just as valid for women as well.
Yeah.
I think things like menstruation, childbirth, those sorts of things, yeah, they're pivotal, but unless we've got awareness around that, it doesn't actually mean that we're going to shift our orientation. You know, it really doesn't. We can just be dysfunctional with a kid hanging off us. You know, it's just doesn't necessarily mean we're going to be looking within and being in a state of centeredness and truth with who we really are. we'll still be referencing outside of ourselves for validation and for proof that we're good enough, or whatever it is that your story is, so
yeah, I think that's a big thing again in that relationship, like you spoke about before, about the validation and getting something back from your partner, and that need, you need all these things from your partner. And when you let go of that and you're just happy in yourself, then you've got all this time and energy to spend creating the life you want. And I think that's because it's it's a bit like it's kind of a slightly different topic, but I talk about like watching the news. The news is basically poison. It fills your head with complete rubbish. And it stops you doing something useful for you with your time, because then you're arguing about, well, not arguing, but you kind of you're arguing with whatever's going on, or you're discussing rubbish basically, as opposed to going, let's focus on what we can control and focus on moving forward and creating what we want and creating what we love. So that's something else I think which is really important. Do you?
I was just going to comment on that, just because, not so much the news thing, because I can come back around to that if you want. But, this scenario where we're looking at something and we're going, oh, that's different to what I want it to be. Like, I want more appreciation in the relationship, for example, and all that sort of stuff. 98% of relationship books and courses and all that sort of stuff is all about how to satisfy your partner better, or how to source your satisfaction better, and all that sort of stuff. And when you boil it all down, it all comes down to how to be a better manipulator with another person. That's all it really is. And it's bullshit, So you might know. Oh, sorry, I don't know if I can swear on that.
That's fine.
But yeah, and all we're doing is we're making it all worse, because we're going, oh, but my love language is such and such, and you need to respect that, because
I read this book.
And that's how it. And it's like, no, hang on a minute. No, where's the self-responsibility in here? Where am I, satisfying those needs, which aren't probably real needs? And the only reason we need them is because we're not following our heart in the first place. Because for me, there's nothing sexier than a man who's following his heart and doing what's true for him, and that I'm free to do what's true for me. And then we come together in the energy of that, and it's unstoppable, So throw the books away.
And also, I'm very conscious of having lots of relationships, and then like we always talk about that collateral damage. And I've had lots of relationships, but I don't dislike that person, but I don't want to create that terrible pattern where you're upsetting people all the time and you don't mean to. It's just because you're not in that right space, are you? There's nothing wrong with that other person, but you're just putting all these demands, or they're putting all these demands. In the normal world, you get on and you're a friend with that person, but going into a relationship is a completely different level, isn't it?
Yeah, because you're much closer. And I think as well, you talk about collateral damage, and that's you have, like you say, these patterns in the past, and especially when Linda, when you spoke about the eggshells thing, and we have those I guess we create beliefs from firstly from being a child and from being in other relationships, and then you take that into your new relationship. So the people say you rock up at the door with all your baggage, and it's like, okay, let's give this a go. I got all my baggage with me, and it's really it's going like, this is a different person. They're not. You can make it up that they're going to act a different way, like you said. With the depression, he's going to be miserable for 3 days. But you're making all that up, and it's like, okay, like you said, especially just talk to their heart and go, and I think as well, when you said about if you're both in your genius, if you're both living your best lives, then that's when you really become, as a couple, become unstoppable, because you're both.
You don't need something to fulfill yourself.
No, you don't need someone. You don't need that other partner to to kind of prop you up, or to massage your ego, or to anything like that, because you're living your best life. You're doing the best. You're doing what you're supposed to be doing.
Yeah, as you're saying that, Colin, it made me think of the word compassion, which William said in the past. What compassion actually means is to be with suffering. And so as a partner in a relationship, it might sound weird, but having compassion for that person as they're going for their heart, as they're creating what's true for them, and as they're facing their dragons as they come up, you know, in the form that they do for that person. Not trying to fix them, not trying to give them unsolicited coaching, that sort of thing, but being compassionate means, you know, holding that space for them, that, hey, you're powerful, you got this, you know, and I'm here, but you've got this, and that being compassionate, sort of see, like having awareness around being compassionate for me allows me to be present, and that means not getting involved in trying to habitually fix and change and all that sort of thing, but just be with, you know, while and I love that from when Linda's like that too. When I'm going through my stuff and I'm going with something and my stuff's coming up and it's like, it's hard, but it's worthy, and worthy of the challenge, you know, is a worthy challenge. And I love that she doesn't step in and try and give me advice or try and, you know, soften the blow or whatever, but rather holds that space so that I can go through what I need to, and then experience more of myself for doing so. You know what I mean? Like, it's
Right.
yeah, compassion's pretty cool.
Yeah, that whole kind of like, I don't know if suffering is the right word, but you know, I've been in. It's kind of, I guess my head's really been, you know, there's a lot been going on, and normally like at night or early in the morning when I'm in bed, and that's when my brain goes 100 miles an hour. But I've had my biggest light bulb moments in that time, you know, in that time of like everything's just like, and then I'm going, okay, what's going on here? And then you start, you know, you break it down and you go, okay. And that's, yeah, you need to go through that suffering and have that hard stuff to really find the breakthroughs and you know, that awareness and yeah, just really finding things out of what's actually going on for you.
Mm. Yeah, another quote that William quotes is the Joseph Campbell quote of you know, to avoid pain is childish, you know, so it's not about avoiding pain, and some of that pain is the tension that we need to hold to allow the wisdom to come through, you know, for us to get those breakthroughs, to get those moments of insight and the connection to that higher aspect of our consciousness. We've got to be able to be with tension. If we can't be with tension, we don't get access to that, and we just circle the drain doing the same stuff we've always done. So yeah,
I definitely, like, one of the big changes with there are a lot of change obviously after doing William's work, but one of them was I was no longer scared of my thoughts, and I think that's probably true for a lot of people, if not men, that they'll do anything not to sit with their thoughts. And that was huge for me, because again, that's where you have your breakthroughs, is when you sit with those thoughts, and that's what changed. Was like, yeah, come on, hit me, tell me whatever, you know, whatever thoughts you want, hit me full on. Let's deal with this. Let's, you know, because once you deal with it, then it's not scary anymore, and it loses that charge, and you can work out what's going on and realize, okay, it's just a past belief system, or it doesn't actually mean what you think it means, because again, you know, you create feelings about it, and it means this and this and this, and actually it doesn't mean anything. So you can let that go and move on to the other stuff, and it's really powerful way of dealing with that, and being able to be by yourself and not being scared of those thoughts, and, you know, thinking, oh, it's just going to get worse, because it's really powerful, that.
Yeah, big time. Because for a lot of people, you know, avoiding the thoughts, avoiding their feelings as well, the strategies kick in, the strategies that they've created many years ago and they've used over and over again for a lifetime. And, you know, whether it's drinking or it's scrolling on, you know, social hardcore, or binge watching whatever it is on Netflix. But, you know, these drugs, you name it, they're just things that are about numbing ourselves so we don't have to be with what's going on. And then we miss the opportunity time and time and time again, and stay circling the drain, because we're not getting, you know, we're not getting to take the gold from what it would mean to sit there and, like you say, realize this has no meaning. You know, I don't have to apply a meaning to it. I can be with it, and it doesn't destroy me. I'm all good. And so, you know, yeah, It is. It's really powerful to be able to be with the thoughts and feelings and recognize that, hey, I'm the one who's got the power here. I'm not subject to these thoughts and feelings anymore, because I'm aware of them and I'm aware where they're coming from.
Yeah.
And you can really take a feeling to the nth degree. You can take it as deep as you want, and you'll notice there's actually a bottom, but it doesn't go any further. It's like, oh, I think I found the bottom of sadness. I found the bottom of grief. Okay, well, that's it. All right, well, get up, dust yourself off, off you go.
World's still spinning.
This world's still spinning. I'm still alive. My heart didn't explode, even though it felt like it might, but there is a bottom to it. And like everything, it passes. And if we can actually go through it, it passes faster. But yeah, anyway, there you go.
The other thing I wanted to touch on was we don't argue much or anything like that much, but I noticed that when we do, it's based on a memory of something in the past. So she'll just trying to think of an example, but I know like something about we want to go to a pub quiz night or something like that. And I just had a really bad reaction to it because I think I must have had a bad experience in the past about, something like that, or a memory came up for me and it was like bad, red light flashing, all the rest of it. So I kind of was like, no, I don't want to do that. That's crazy. And then you were like, well, yeah, he doesn't want to do, I can't remember.
Well, I wanted you to come with me and I wanted you to explain why you couldn't come to a pub quiz. It's like, why can't you just come to a pub quiz?
It's something that's so simple, and that's I think that's the bizarre thing, is that it's really simple things, but what's going on in the background is that there's this memory and this big red light, and you're kind of gone into meltdown panic mode because of a memory, but you're not arguing about that specific thing that you're talking about. You're actually having this post conversation about something that happened in the past. It's quite bizarre.
Yeah, very true. It's like when we rarely, when we're unconscious to what's going on, we don't get to experience true reality. All we experience is, like you say, overlaying our past experiences on what's going on in this moment. So therefore, we close ourselves off to any higher perspective in the moment for what's happening, and any information that's really relative to that experience, to what's happening. No new info means we're only relying on all of our old points of reference, sort of thing. And like you say, we're arguing like crazy based on these old points of reference that have got nothing to do with the truth of what's going on. They've got nothing to do with reality. And we think that we're experiencing reality, but we're not. We're re-experiencing the past, and we're fighting over it. So it's really interesting. But for me, that was a big deal, was to discover, man, you're not in reality. You're not experiencing reality. I was like, what? I can see it, I can feel it. Of course I am. That's mad. And it's like, but no, I can see very clearly how when I'm in default mode, when I'm just not conscious of what's going on, then I am completely referencing my historic belief patterns and all that sort of thing, chucking it on what's going on and thinking that this is what's happening here. So even what I think is happening here is not what's really happening here,
So it's so common, and it must be really common because we're aware of it, but I know I still do it. Even at work, you just play out the same old routine. Oh God, they're saying that because they mean that, and then I'm reacting because of all these things that have gone on in the past, and you just never get out of that. So, and I'm aware of it. So everyone's doing that all the time, aren't they?
Yeah, absolutely, all the time. Yeah, that's right. And all for the sake of just stopping and taking a breath, and then just asking, "What's true for me?" Because if you just take that moment and go, "What's true for me?" And, it might not be true for you to go to the pub quiz night, right? Generally, it might not be, but you don't know unless you create the space and create the gap to sort of let the unconscious thoughts and feelings drop away for a moment to then get that truth. But, a lot of those things, when I do it, if you propose something like some sort of horrendous hike or something, no kidding, I actually do like hiking, but sometimes I don't. But if I drop into that, what's true for me, I'll often get insights to things like, well, actually, what's true for me is to have a connected experience, and I love nature, and I'm just what I'm actually doing is I'm just being objective, objectionable. Is that the word? Objectionable. So I don't, because I don't want to have to walk up hills, or I don't want to, get too sweaty, or these sorts. And that's actually, those things don't matter. What really matters is going for the truth, and the truth is that connection. So then it's like, okay, that's a yes. Even though my ego wanted to say no, I'd actually prefer to stay home and read my book, that sort of thing. So yeah, but yeah, it's so easy, but we just don't do it. So easy. Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about your retreat, because you've got a retreat coming up soon, haven't you?
Yeah, we've actually got two, but one's already full, so we won't talk about that one. So we've got a retreat called the Truth, Love and Wisdom Retreat. So that's we're taking people on the journey of alchemy, learning what is actually truth. Is it's one thing to say, okay, to have connection with your truth, but a lot of people don't even know what that is. For example, until I started doing this work, I had no idea that it's actually in my truth to express through painting and art. I actually denied it vehemently when it was pointed out to me that, hey, in your greatness, you're an artist. I'm like, no, I'm not. I can't draw a stick figure. And now, painting is part of my life, and I love it, and I really enjoy it. And so helping people to come to terms with, what is it that's true for me? What's my purpose? What do I actually love in life, rather than what I've sort of adopted as what I should love in life, and those sorts of things, and knowing your authentic self. So before, when I was saying, I'm not that much of a nurturing mother, I'm not the sort of mothering kind sort of thing, but I'm an authentic mother. My kids, they still love me, they still talk to me, and things like that.
They're still alive.
I don't fit necessarily the societal model of mothering, nurturing mother. I nurture them, but in a different way. Sounds weird. Anyway, so knowing who you are, knowing what you love, and then going about how to create that, because as we said, when you're going for something, tension comes up. We add the dragons show. They want to get in your way and stop you from moving forward into what you love, because it's scary. Those first paintings I had to put out there in the world, which I didn't have to put them out there, but I thought, well, this is me. I've been expressing myself. I've got to put it out there. The ego's like, no, don't put that shit out there. You're supposed to be, Mrs. Science and maths and all that sort of thing. Don't do that. But it's about, okay, how do we manage that? How do we keep ourselves on path so that we're not in that reactive mode of being the victim to our identity, our old stories, all that sort of thing, and then moving forward with that. So we're going to really be doing 4-day deep dive on that, which is super cool.
Yeah, and another another component we'll see people coming to have a greater awareness of their shadow side, of those aspects of them that they deny, that they see are not good enough, not enough in the world, and
shouldn't be seen in the world. They've got to hide them away.
That's right. Must hide it away. That this is all right, but hell no, that no. And so we want people to through processes that we'll go through. We're going to support people to sort of come to know that it's come to reconnect with, really, because they know, but they've been denying. So come to reconnect with all of themselves, and so they can come away with a new relationship with themselves, where it's like, I don't have to deny anything. Like, I'm whole and I'm okay. Like, I can be in the world as me, and I can express all of me in ways that are true for me, sort of thing, And so then when they're living life, they're really authentically them. They're not trying to be authentically them. They just are, and they're having experience of that. And so that's sort of an aspect of the of the retreat as well, is that they come away in that, having that relationship, which is really cool.
Yeah, because if there's things about yourself you don't have to control, guess what, you're free to then look at the things you love. It's just so cool. So cool. We forget about how much energy we waste trying to control those elements of ourselves that we think have to be hidden or denied or whatever. Yeah,
so tiring. And loads of people go into relationships, like you joke with your friends, you're like, oh God, I don't want to show them my, nobody wants to see what I'm really like, everybody thinks like that, don't they? It's like, God, no, I never want to show that ever, So, but it's so tiring, isn't it? It's like, oh God. say that. Don't do that. This is like a right crazy person, but yeah.
It's just
Yeah.
about being your true and authentic self, and that's and when you're true and authentic, and someone loves you for that, then that's pure.
That's enough for you then, and you don't need that constant reassurance, do you?
You don't need to pretend you're something you're not or anything like that. You're just yourself, and that's
like we're having acupuncture at the moment, and this woman that does it for us is amazing, and that's what that's all about, coming back to your authentic self, you know, everything flowing, everything connecting. And I mean, I feel amazing from it, you know, because you just go back to being you. Because as you get older, you lose all of that. Women go through lots of menopause and all of that, and you just lose who you were, and you forget, and everything changes about you, and people come into your life and affect you, and it's just getting back to, well, this is who I am, and this is the person I'm happy being, you know. So
yeah. Tell us a little bit about your course, Craig, your online course.
Yeah, so the online courses, this one is particularly sort of created for men. You know, it's alchemy, like it's working with structure, but essentially to provide men with, you know, who may have arrived at a point in their lives where what used to work to give them a sense of fulfillment and a sense of meaningful engagement in life no longer does the trick. You know, it no longer works. They've got everything, they've created everything that they were told back when they were young, that you get the house, the family, and all the stuff, and then you're good. You know, your life will be successful and you'll feel amazing. But they're finding that they've done all that, they've created all that, and they're still feeling like, but there's more to me and there's more to life. I'm just like, it's undeniable, but I don't know what to do with that. You know, all I feel is that there's some unobtainable sort of thing there that I can't have. And like, it's like bringing them back to the awareness of their greatness for a start, and also through an awareness of the dynamics that run unconsciously that have a massive effect on their results in life, you know, their relationships, the quality of the connections they have in their intimate relationships, but in their, you know, their friendships, their with their work colleagues and so forth, and with their, you know, their kids, and it just sort of gives guys, because they don't have any idea, like that all they know is, I'm not happy, I feel disconnected, you know, from people, and I also feel like I'm letting myself and others down often. You know, I'm reactive to stuff. I'm kind of generally feel sort of over it, and like I don't have energy for stuff, but I want more. You know, so it's helping them to kind of reconnect with the truth of who they are, and to get a real picture of the illusion of what they created, you know, about their identity back when they were kids, and have been kind of orientated out of all of their life. So that they can sort of take that next step in life, which is to really start to create a life that's more of a representation of the truth of who they are and the potential that they have, you know, so that they can have that life that they're actually really into, you know. And it's like, shit, I'm loving this. And from one guy to the next, that's going to be different, you know, because what's true for one will be different for the next person. But each person, the aim there is that each person can come to know what that is and to pursue it and create it, you know. So the online course is kind of that starting point that allows people to see what's been playing out, that's been affecting where they're at currently, like, how did I get here, and to realize that how it is that they've created it, so that they can take that power back and realize that if they can create that as a natural creator, they can create what they love too, you know, equally available. So yeah, that's essentially what the tool shed's about, you know.